feel when you get stuff done? I'll reverse the question. How do you feel if you don't get stuff done? If you make a promise to yourself, I'm going to do something, and you don't do it, how does it make you feel? Versus if you say you're going to do something and you do it. So my enormous big rock pile, and I will share passionately, this is my very fun garden. It started as just dirt. And literally the beautiful people from the transport company that have been delivering rocks to my garden have shared with me they've delivered 120 tonne of rock to my house. This pile is now a beautiful garden, and everything else, we have a big garden and there's rocks everywhere. The reason for that I'm sharing with you is that it's the windiest part of New Zealand. It's the coldest part of New Zealand. It's minus at the moment. It's the hottest part of New Zealand in the summer. It's the driest in the summer. It's a really extreme place to live. So I had to come up with a garden that would be able to handle all of that. Now I'm sharing that with you because it's been a great purpose to exercise. It's been a really awesome reason to lift heavy and to get puffed. And I've turned 120 tonne of rock plus the sand and the gravel that I've moved into a really wow exercise experience. And it's something that I promised myself to do, and I'm almost there, and I'm sure that I'll keep doing stuff. But I'm sharing this with you because this is just a personal thing that I always ask everybody. How do you feel? I'll ask the question again. If you promise yourself you're going to do something and you don't do it. So if you say to yourself, I'm going to exercise, and you get up and you go and you exercise, how does it make you feel? Versus you promise yourself you're going to get up and you come up with an excuse or a reason or a justification for not exercising. I'm using exercise in particular, but you could apply it to any part of your life. If you promise yourself you're going to do something and you don't do it, what happens to your self-esteem, the way you feel about yourself? And is it possible, even worse than that, is that you can then get into the habit of making promises to yourself and not keeping them? Now, that's all in the negative and the past, and I hate that stuff because you can change it. Could you decide today, never again? If I make a promise to myself, I'm going to keep that promise and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to, as I always share, my favourite expression, you'll see me waving from the top or dead on the side, but I'm not coming back. I'll do it or die. I'm going to move this huge big pile of rocks or I'll die. And there's a couple of times where I thought my body was a bit busted and I was puffed and even sweating, even though it was minus out here. We have a bit of a giggle because we've got great spotlights around the outside of the house, and there's been many nights where those spotlights have been on because I've stayed outside, because I'm the kind of person that if I make a promise to myself that I'm going to do something, I always do it, and I don't stop until it's done. And that's perhaps a great philosophy that you could apply to your life, because once again, it's interesting how most people say negative things about other people. I get that. But a lot of people criticise me in a negative and almost nasty sometimes about the fanatical Rowie always does stuff, or you can't always do stuff, don't be ridiculous. And I will share with you passionately that I thrive on that kind of criticism because it drives me forward. If somebody accuses me of being obnoxiously happy, I really like that, and it forces me to think even more happy thoughts. If people criticise me for being disciplined, it makes me feel even more committed to being disciplined. I'm sharing that with you because they're all choices. We can get really cranky and angry about other people and what they say about us, or we can use them as a driving force to go forward. We get to choose. But the challenge that we've got is if we make a promise to ourselves and we don't keep that promise, what does that do to every part of our headspace? Reverse of that, and I'm going to say it again because I think it's really exciting. If you make a promise to yourself and you keep that promise and you keep going until it's done and you would never not do it, how does that make you feel about yourself? And is it possible that going forward you'll take on bigger things, more exciting things, more responsibility because you know that you can, because you can handle it? So what if you made a choice today? I'm never going to make a promise that I'm going to make promises and I'm going to keep them. And I always add in a little side note there. There's an interesting word called realistic, and people often accuse me of being unrealistic, but I'm I'm a realist. I am very aware at the beginning of the day that this is what I have to achieve today. I'm not going to stop until it's achieved. I'm not going to bed until it's finished. But I'm not going to overload my 24 hours either, because how would I feel if I put too much into my 24 hours, I don't achieve what I wanted to do, and then I get annoyed about it because I put too much in? I just think that's silly. What do you think? So how about plan your day? There's a great analogy to do with rocks. Do the big rocks first, and if you had to fill up a container and put as much into that container as you possibly could, you'd do the big rocks first, then the medium-sized rocks, then the small rocks, then the pebbles, then the gravel, then the sand, and you could fill the rest up with water. And I use that analogy all the time, particularly because I've been dealing with rocks now for quite a while, is that if you get the big stuff done first, it's interesting that the other stuff works itself out. If you focus on the little stuff, on the gravel, on the sand, and the big rocks don't get done, it gets really annoying. And if you try and put the sand in first, then put the big rocks in, the big rocks don't fit into the container. So plan your day realistically. There is only 24 hours in your day. There's only 168 hours in a week. We only have 365 days in a year. What are you going to do today? What are you going to do this month? Or what are you going to do this year to make your life even better for the future? And wouldn't that be a great reason to get up every day? The purpose is, I've made a promise to myself. I've done my to-do list the day before. I'm going to do everything today that I promised myself I will do. I'm going to make sure that I look after myself. And that's another interesting side note. I don't do anything for anybody else until I look after me first. And I know that sounds incredibly selfish, but I'll use the analogy from plane travel. You'll hear this every time you go on a plane. In the case of an emergency, a mask will fall out of the ceiling. Make sure that you're breathing first before you try and help anybody else, because if you're not breathing, you can't help your children, you can't help the old people, you can't help anybody else, because you'll be dead. And that's how I live my life. And could it be a great idea to consider that if you look after you, if you're fit, if you're strong, if you're hydrated, if you've done your exercise, if you've looked after you and done all the things that you need to do, then you'll be able to look after everybody else. So if you make a promise to yourself today, keep the promise. If you've made a promise to exercise, make sure that you do. If you've made a promise to eat healthy food, here's a great suggestion. We are only one decision away, only one every time, from making a change. So even if you've eaten crappy food all of your life, your next meal could be healthy. Even if you've never exercised any days of your life, your next day could be the day that you start exercising and never skip a day. You might have been the person that procrastinates, that doesn't do what you say you're going to do, but you could decide today that that's never going to happen again. So could that be a great decision? That is completely up to you. All I'm asking very personally is if you want to live your life to the max. Number one, thank you for coming to Romax, because every single day that's all we chat about here is how to be healthy, fit and strong, how to have a career that you love, how to have financial freedom so you can enjoy your life and make sure that you've got great people in your life to enjoy your life with. So if you want to live your life to the max, could it be important, if you're going to make decisions, if you're going to make promises, that you keep those promises and make sure that once you've made a decision, you keep going until you'll see me waving from the top or dead on the side, but I'm not coming back. I'll do it or die. Romax. Every single day is about how to live your life to the max. And my rock pole, it's gone. Ha ha! Woo!